It's March the 29th. Let's read the Bible. Friends, welcome back to this year-long journey from Genesis to Revelation in just 1 year. Here we are near the end of the month of March. We're coming near the end of the book of Joshua. What an exciting journey this has been. Now today, Joshua 18, 19, 20, and 21. I said to you yesterday, a lot of place names. Friends, I got to tell you, there are even more place names and people names. There's more of that here even than yesterday. I'm doing the best that I can do. We just got to get through this. But remember, these were real place names. These were real tribes. This was the land that God was giving to his people. And I guarantee you, if you were in the tribe of Asher, you wanted to know where your land started and where it stopped. And same for Issachar and same for Dan and the same for all the tribes. So here's where we are. Joshua chapter 18. There are still 7 tribes that had not yet been assigned any land. And so we're going to pick up the story. We're going to find out where those 7 tribes are going to be. Joshua 18. The entire Israelite community assembled at Shiloh and set up the tent of meeting there. The land had been subdued before them, but 7 tribes among the Israelites were left who had not divided up their inheritance. So Joshua asked the Israelites, "How long will you delay going out to take possession of the land the Lord your God, the God of your ancestors, gave you? Appoint for yourselves 3 men from each tribe. I will send them out. They're to go and survey the land, write a description of it for the purposes of their inheritance, and return to me. Then they are to divide it into 7 portions. Judah is to remain in its territory in the south, and Joseph's family in their territory in the north. When you have written a description of the 7 portions of land and brought it to me, I will cast lots for you here in the presence of the Lord our God. But the Levites among you," see, we've talked about this before, "the Levites among you do not get a portion because their inheritance is the priesthood of the Lord. Gad, Reuben, and half the tribe of Manasseh have taken their inheritance beyond the Jordan to the east, which Moses, the Lord's servant, gave them." As the men prepared to go, Joshua commanded them to write down a description of the land, saying, "Go and survey the land. Write a description of it and return to me. I will then cast lots for you here in Shiloh in the presence of the Lord." So the men left, went throughout the land, and described it by towns in a document of 7 sections. They returned to Joshua at the camp in Shiloh. Joshua cast lots for them at Shiloh in the presence of the Lord, where he distributed the land to the Israelites according to their divisions. The lot came up for the tribe of Benjamin's descendants by their clans, and their allotted territory lay between Judah's descendants and Joseph's descendants. What we need to know here is Benjamin. There were big tribes. Judah was a big tribe, and Manasseh was a big tribe. Ephraim was a big tribe. Judah was small. A small tribe, small territory. Verse 12. Their border on the north side began at the Jordan, ascended to the slope of Jericho on the north, through the hill country westward, and ended at the wilderness around Beth Aven. From there, the border went toward Luz, to the southern slope of Luz, that is Bethel. Then it went down by Ataroth Adar, over the hill south of lower Beth Horon. On the west side, from the hill facing Beth Horon on the south, the border curved, turning southward and ending at Kiriath Baal, that is Kiriath Jearim, a city of the descendants of Judah. This was the west side of their border. The south side began at the edge of Kiriath Jearim, and the border extended westward. It went to the spring at the waters of Nephtoah. The border descended to the foot of the hill that faces Beth Hinnom Valley at the northern end of Rephaim Valley. It ran down Hinnom Valley toward the south Jebusite slope and downward to En Rogel. It curved northward and went to En Shemeth and on to Geliloth, which is opposite the ascent of Adumim, and continued down to the stone of Bohan, son of Reuben. Then it went north to the slope opposite to Arabah and proceeded to the plains. The border continued to the north slope of Beth Hoglah and ended at the northern bay of the Dead Sea at the southern end of the Jordan. This was the southern border. The Jordan formed the border on the east side. This was the inheritance of Benjamin's descendants by their clans according to its surrounding borders. These were the cities of the tribe of Benjamin's descendants by their clans: Jericho, Beth Hagla, Emek Keziz, Beth Arabah, Zema-Raim, Bethel, Avim, Perah, Ophrah, Chephar, Ammoni, Ophni, and Geba, 12 cities with their settlements. Gibeon, Ramah, Beeroth, Mizpah, Chephirah, Moza, Rekem, Erpeel, Taralah, Zelah, Ha-Eleph, Jebus, that is Jerusalem, Gibeah, and Kiriath, 14 cities with their settlements. This was the inheritance for Benjamin's descendants by their clans. Okay, get it? Benjamin is basically a small clan, small territory, but all important, included in the territory, the city of Jerusalem. Now, Joshua 19, second lot, came out for Simeon, for the tribe of his descendants by their clans, but their inheritance was within the inheritance given to Judah's descendants. Sea of Galilee, Jordan River, Dead Sea, Mediterranean Sea. You have Jerusalem here, tribe of Benjamin. Down on the south side, you have south edge, the southern territory. That's the big territory of Judah, which included, by the way, Bethlehem. But Judah's territory was too big for their tribe. So Simeon now they're going to be scattered throughout the tribe of Judah. Their inheritance included Beersheba or Sheba, Molada, Hazar Shual, Bela, Ezem, El Tolad, Bethuel, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth Markaboth, Hazar Susah, Beth Lebaoth, and Sharuhim, 13 cities with their settlements. Ain, Rimmon, Ether, and Ashan, 4 cities with their settlements. And all the settlements surrounding these cities as far as Baalath Beer, Ramah in the south. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Simeon's descendants by their clans. The inheritance of Simeon's descendants was within the territory of Judah's descendants. In other words, Judah is here because the share for Judah's descendants was too large. So Simeon's descendants received an inheritance within Judah's portion. The third lot came up for Zebulun's descendants by their clans. The territory, their inheritance, stretched as far as Sarid. Their border went up westward to Merilah, reached Dabasheth, and met the brook east of Jokneam. From Sarid, it turned due east along the border of Chisloth Tabor, went to Dabirath, and then went up to Japhia. From there, it went due east to Gath Hefer, and then Eth Kazim. It extended to Rimmon, curving around to Neah. The border then circled around Neah on the north to Hanathon and ended at Iftah El Valley, along with Katath, Nahalel, Shimron, Dalah, and Bethlehem, 12 cities with their settlements. This was the inheritance of Zebulun's descendants by their clans, these cities with their settlements. Issachar's inheritance. The fourth lot came out for the tribe of Issachar's descendants by their clans. Their territory went to Jezreel and included Jesulath, Shunem, Hapharaim, Shion, and Naharath, Rabith, Kishion, Ebez, Remeth, in Ganim, in Haddah, and Beth Pazez. The border reached Tabor, Shahazumah, and Beth Shemesh, and ended at the Jordan, 16 cities with their settlements. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Issachar's descendants by their clans, the cities with their settlements. The fifth lot came out for the tribe of Asher's descendants by their clans. Their boundary included Helkath, Hali, Betin, Aksheph, Alamelech, Ahmed, and Mishal, and reached westward to Carmel and Shihor Limnath. It turned eastward to Beth Dagon, reached Zebulun at Iftah El Valley, north toward Beth Emek and Neel, and went north to Kabul, Ebron, Rehob, Haman, and Cana, as far as Greater Sidon. The boundary then turned to Ramah, as far as the fortified city of Tyre. See, this is all way in the north. It turned back to Hosa and ended at the Mediterranean Sea, including Mahalab, Akzib, Umah, Aphek, and Rehob, 22 cities with their settlements. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Asher's descendants by their clans, these cities with their settlements. The sixth lot came out for Naphtali's descendants by their clans. Their boundary went from Heleph and from the oak. Isn't that interesting? It's actual tree here. And from the oak in Zaanaim, including Adami, Nekeb, and Jabneel as far as Lakum, and ended at the Jordan. To the west, the boundary turned to Asnath Tabor and went from there to Hukok, reaching Zebulun on the south, Asher on the west, and Judah at the Jordan on the east. The fortified cities were Zedim, Zer, Hamath, Rakath, Chinnereth, Adamah, Ramah, Hatzor, Kedesh, Edrei in Hatzor, Iron, Migdal El, Horem, Beth Anath, and Beth Shemeth, 19 cities with their settlements. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Naphtali's descendants by their clans, the cities with their settlements. The seventh lot came out for the tribe of Dan's descendants by their clans. The territory of their inheritance included Zorah, Eshtael, Ir Shemesh, Sha'al, Abin, Aijalon, Ithla, Elon, Timnah, Ekron, Eltikah, Gibbethon, Baalath, Jehud, Benaberak, Gath Rimmon, Me Jarkon, and Rakkon, with the territory facing Joppa. When the territory of the descendants of Dan slipped out of their control, they went up and fought against Leshem, captured it, and struck it down by the sword. So they took possession of it, lived there, and renamed Leshem after their ancestor Dan. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Dan's descendants by their clans, these cities with their settlements. When they had finished distributing the land into its territories, the Israelites gave Joshua son of Nun an inheritance among them. By the Lord's command, they gave him the city Timnath-Serah in the hill country of Ephraim, which he requested. He rebuilt the city and lived in it. These were the portions that the priest Eleazar, Joshua son of Nun, and the family heads distributed to the Israelite tribes by lot at Shiloh in the Lord's presence at the entrance to the tent of meeting. So they finished dividing up the land. Now, chapter 20. 13 through 19, we've been talking about dividing the land, right? East of the Jordan, west of the Jordan. Now we're finished with that. Cities of refuge. There are going to be 6 of them. 3 east of the Jordan, 3 west of the Jordan. Again, this has come up several times. God making sure that provision is made for justice and mercy among his people. Joshua 20. Then the Lord spoke to Joshua, tell the Israelites, select your cities of refuge as I instructed you through Moses, so that a person who kills someone unintentionally or accidentally may flee there. These will be your refuge from the avenger of blood. When someone flees to one of these cities, stands at the gate of the entrance of the city gate, and states his case before the elders of that city, they are to bring him into the city and give him a place to live among them. And if the avenger of blood pursues him, they must not hand the one who committed manslaughter over to him, for he killed his neighbor accidentally and did not hate him beforehand. He is to stay in that city until he stands trial before the assembly and until the death of the high priest serving at that time. Then the one who committed manslaughter may return home to his own city from which he fled. So they designated Kedesh in the hill country of Naphtali in Galilee, Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron in the hill country of Judah. Across the Jordan, east of Jericho, they selected Bezer on the wilderness plateau from Reuben's tribe, Ramoth and Gilead from Gad's tribe, and Golan and Bashan from Manasseh's tribe. These are the cities appointed for all the Israelites and the aliens residing among them, so that anyone who kills a person unintentionally may flee there and not die at the hand of the avenger of blood until he stands before the assembly. Chapter 21, last chapter for today. Now, we've been reading periodically here about how the Levites aren't given a specific tribal territory because their inheritance is the Lord. And God is going to, from the food that the people bring as offering, parts of it were part of that food offering was provided by God for the Levites. But they are going to be given cities scattered throughout all the tribes. That's what this chapter is. The Levite family heads approached the priest Eleazar, Joshua, son of Nun, and the family heads of the Israelite tribes at Shiloh in the land of Canaan, they told them, the Lord commanded through Moses that we be given cities to live in with their pasture lands for our livestock. So the Israelites, by the Lord's command, gave the Levites these cities with their pasture lands for their inheritance. The lot came out for the Kohathite clans. The Levites, who were the descendants of the priest Aaron, received 13 cities by lot from the tribes of Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin. The remaining descendants of Kohath received 10 cities by lot from the clans of the tribes of Ephraim, Dan, and half the tribe of Manasseh. Gershon's descendants received 13 cities by lot from the clans of the tribes of Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and half the tribe of Manasseh and Bashan. Merari's descendants received 12 cities for their clans from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Zebulun. The Israelites gave these cities with their pasture lands around them to the Levites by lot as the Lord had commanded through Moses. Now comes the listing of those cities. The Israelites gave these cities by name from the tribes of the descendants of Judah and Simeon to the descendants of Aaron from the Kohathite clans of the Levites because they received the first lot. They gave them Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the father of Anak, with its surrounding pasture lands in the hill country of Judah. But they gave the fields and settlements of the city to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, as his possession. They gave to the descendants of the priest Aaron Hebron, the city of refuge for the one who commits manslaughter, with its pasture lands, Libnah with its pasture lands, Jatir with its pasture lands, Eshtemoa with its pasture lands, Holon with its pasture lands, Debir with its pasture lands, Ain with its pasture lands, Jutah with its pasture lands, Bethshemesh with its pasture lands, 9 cities from these 2 tribes. From the tribe of Benjamin, they gave Gibeon with its pasture lands, Geba with its pasture lands, Anathoth with its pasture lands, and Almon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. All 13 cities with their pasture lands were for the priests, the descendants of Aaron. The allotted cities to the remaining clans of Kohath's descendants, who were Levites, came from the tribe of Ephraim. The Israelites gave them Shechem, the city of refuge for the one who commits manslaughter, with its pasture lands in the hill country of Ephraim, Gezer with its pasture lands, Gibzaim with its pasture lands, and Beth Horon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Dan, they gave El-Teki with its pasture lands, Gibbethon with its pasture lands, Aijalon with its pasture lands, and Gath-Rimmon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Manasseh, they gave Ta'anak with its pasture lands, and Gath-Rimmon with its pasture lands, 2 cities. All 10 cities with their pasture lands were for the clans of Kohath's other descendants. From the tribe of Manasseh, they gave to the descendants of Gershon, who were one of the Levite clans, Golan, the city of refuge for the one who commits manslaughter, with its pasture lands in Bashan, and Beeshterah with its pasture lands, 2 cities. From the tribe of Issachar, they gave Kishion with its pasture lands, Daberath with its pasture lands, Jarmuth with its pasture lands, and En-Ganim with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Asher, they gave Mishal with its pasture lands, Abdon with its pasture lands, Helkath with its pasture lands, and Rehob with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Naphtali, they gave Kedesh in Galilee, the city of refuge for the one who commits manslaughter, with its pasture lands, Hamath-Dor with its pasture lands, and Kartan with its pasture lands, 3 cities. All 13 cities with their pasture lands were for the Gershonites by their clans. From the tribe of Zebulun, they gave to the clans of the descendants of Merari, who were the remaining Levites, Jotneam with its pasture lands, Karta with its pasture lands, Dimnah with its pasture lands, and Nahalal with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Reuben, they gave Bezer with its pasture lands, Jaza with its pasture lands, Kedemoth with its pasture lands, and Mephaath with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Gad, they gave Ramoth and Gilead, the city of refuge for the one who commits manslaughter, with its pasture lands, Mahanaim with its pasture lands, Heshbon with its pasture lands, Jazer with its pasture lands, 4 cities, and all 12 cities were allotted to the clans of Merari's descendants, the remaining Levites' clans. Within the Israelites' possession, there were 48 cities in all with their pasture lands for the Levites. Each of these cities had its own surrounding pasture lands. This was true for all the cities. Before I read the last verses, just note, for all these cities, city, pasture lands, city, pasture lands, city, pasture lands. Why the pasture lands? Because not just for the raising of animals, but the raising of animals for the sacrifice. The Levites were the ones who took care of the sacrifices at the tabernacle, later at the temple. So the pasture lands were absolutely necessary. So I'm saying it's not just to sustain the families, but it was to provide the animals necessary, and there would be a great number necessary to keep the sacrifices going day and night, week in and week out, year round. End of chapter 21. Wonderful. Verse 43. So the Lord gave Israel all the land he had sworn to give their ancestors, and they took possession of it and settled there. The Lord gave them rest on every side, according to all he had sworn to their ancestors. None of their enemies were able to stand against them, for the Lord handed over all their enemies to them. None of the good promises the Lord had made to the house of Israel failed. Everything was fulfilled. No failing promises. Literally, you could translate it, none of the promises fell to the ground. There were no falling promises. We started in January. We're now at the end of March. Early on in January, God said to Abraham in Genesis 12, I'm going to give you a land. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, now in Joshua, centuries later, at long last, the promise has been fulfilled. The people of God are in their land at last. Everything was fulfilled. Rejoice. Our God is a promise-keeping God. On that note, friends, and with that certainty in mind, go out and have a great day. Come back tomorrow. We're going to wrap up the amazing book of Joshua. See you then.